I'd like to start by thanking Dr. Schneider, as if my life doesn't too often already feel like too much, too hard, and too awful. He even goes on to describe our current technocratic life as a living death. But is he right? Are we losing a capacity or some capacity for presence, discernment, and psychospiritual depth? Teens and adults glued to their smartphones, reliance on computerized assistance for things I didn't even know I needed to know and evidently need to know now. What time does Aldi close today? Social media replacing face-to-face time and really being present. I remember when the thought of needing even a telephone, never mind my pocket computer here, outside my home seemed odd. Then, after I got one and had it surgically connected to my hip, a data plan to text instead of just calling? Why? And apps? How easy it is to let tech take over our time and attention. Are we losing a capacity for presence and depth? And I don't want to dwell on corporations manipulating what we see, think, and feel, as well as how we vote and get our news, but are we losing a capacity for discernment? Is too much of current life more of a living death than a wild and precious life? Help! When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was a bridegroom taking the world in my arms. But my days are so full, awfully full. And full of what? Full of or full of awe. All of those moments are present in our lives every single day. As psychologist Jonah Peckett says, we live in an age of unprecedented abundance. Aspects of human life have never been better. With the worldwide standard of living at its highest level in human history and life expectancy the longest on record, and there is also deep suffering, vast inequality, ecological devastation, discrimination, violence, and more. And in mental health, we've never been more miserable, with higher rates of stress, depression, loneliness, and anxiety than ever. Many of our modern advancements provide us with little comfort in the parts of life that matter most. If anything, many aspects of our world today, disconnection from other people, rampant consumerism, overuse of technology, contribute to our collective despair and harm our health. And so we are called to be present and discern to what we give our attention and how we live our one wild and precious life. The good news is that even amidst the stress of our daily lives, we can shift our perspective by reigniting our awareness of the precious moments in our lives and reawakening our innate capacity to experience awe. In July, I broke my ankle at work at Trinity Methodist Church up the street, one of my many, many part-time jobs. I was rushing, already thinking about the next job, texting while closing up the building. I missed a stair and I fell. After 62 years, largely injury-free, years of dance, gymnastics, and even stunt work, I was felled by my cell phone and inattention. I was just walking and texting, for goodness sake, but mindless of my surroundings, not present at all. And the sad thing is that while my work there is hardly awe-inspiring, the place I do that work really is quite awesome. It is I who too often choose to value productivity and multitasking over presence and awe. Blessedly, one day recently, again thinking about my next 3 jobs, as I walked into the darkened sanctuary to tidy up the pews, I looked up instead of down. I stopped. I stared. And truly, the glory of the Lord shone all around. A kaleidoscope of colors streamed from the 2-story stained glass window in front of me, and dozens more stained glass windows all around me in every direction. Rich, saturated colors pooling in puddles on the flagstone at my feet. The soaring Gothic stone architecture lifted my eyes and my spirit with it. I felt the cool air clear any thoughts from my mind, and silence wrapped me in a calm, soft blanket. And in an instant, I had what had always been available to me, had I been present: a spiritual experience German theologian Rudolf Otto would have called numinous. It's a term he coined to describe the non-rational part of religious experience, or the emotion of a creature submerged and overwhelmed by his own nothingness, in contrast to that which is supreme above all creatures. Otto describes it as holy fear of the Lord, but also one of the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit, along with wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, and piety. Otto's definition for the numinous, of course, is based in his Christian religious context. And in German, he did not have a word for the emotion he describes. We do. The word is awe, and it's not confined to religious experience. The English word awe stems from the Old English word ega, meaning terror or dread, which may have arisen from the Greek word ahos, meaning pain. But more recent definitions of awe focus more on mystery, wonder, transcendence, the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your understanding of the world. And ultimately, we have a choice how to respond to things which transcend our understanding, don't we? Fear, terror, pain, wonder, curiosity. Remember Star Trek? Its mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no person, I'm adjusting, has gone before. Well, Captain Kirk, William Shatner, has written a book of essays entitled Boldly Go: Reflections on a Life of Awe and Wonder, which reflects on the interconnectivity of all things, our fragile bond with nature, and the joy that comes from exploration. I know very little, he says, but I know just enough about the universe to be in its thrall, in awe of its mystery. Perhaps nothing is more awe-inspiring, vast, and transcendent than the universe, or more challenging than using technology. So, yes. Have you seen the James Webb Telescope's images of space? The Hubble photographs? I'm supposed to be able to go forward by putting this there. Okay. Is it possible not to be awed by these visions? We are brought to the edge of what we can wrap our minds around. We feel humbled and small. Our entire earth, nothing but a blue marble. Our sun, one of billions of stars, and we are nothing but stardust. Psychologists call this feeling small self, a shift in attention toward larger entities and diminishment of the individual self. But really, I can do this again. I should just let Calvin and Hobbes explain it. Calvin, look at all the stars. The universe just goes out forever and ever. Hobbes, kind of makes you wonder why man considers himself such a big screaming deal. What's crazy is how this small self phenomenon doesn't diminish us, but actually welcomes us to connect with something larger. It's not about being less than, but about being a part of, about being connected. And not just connected to the stars, but also to each other. Sadly, Calvin also captures our fear of insignificance in the last frame. That's why we stay inside with our appliances. Why? Do we hide from the awesome universe all around us? Really experiencing the vast, awe-filled universe reduces our size, but not to diminish us, in order to make room for something more than our personal needs, wants, and worries. And that is a great gift, because while being the center of our universe can make us feel like a big screaming deal, it can also make us feel pressured, disconnected, lonely. It's like being the star of a play, always in the spotlight, but also blinded by the light to everything that is outside. Awe turns off the spotlight and brings up the house lights to show us the wonders all around us. Maybe being stardust instead of a star is the best way to take the world in my arms and be married to amazement. Now, I'm not saying this shift in perception is easy. In addition to the ways our technocratic world almost encourages disconnection, self-interest, and chronic anxiety, humans seem to have been hardwired from the very beginning with a survival instinct, self-interest, and a serious negativity bias. Negativity bias is the tendency to remember and give more importance to negative experiences than positive or even neutral ones. And this may have taught our ancient ancestors to be cautious and learn from past dangers to avoid them in the future. Yes, being alert to threats and worst-case scenarios helped them survive. However, modern research supports the notion that the emotion of awe evolved to help humans gain 3 social emotional skills: social connection, kindness, and curiosity, all equally vital to our survival and evolution as a species. Imagine experiencing shared moments of awe, like gazing up at the moon, hunkering down during storms, or seeing a beautiful sunrise, would have helped our ancestors shift from individual survival toward collaboration. Awe-inspiring activities created collaboratively, like rituals, religious ceremonies, music, dance, would have helped them to shift their focus away from narrow self-interest and more into a caring group collective. And as humans created larger, more complex social groups, a more collaborative collective allowed for greater productivity, exploration, and achievement. Fast forward a few millennia, our bodies and brains are still genetically wired for survival, self-interest, and negativity bias. So we still need connection, kindness, and curiosity as much as our ancient ancestors. Fortunately, we also retain those ancestors' ability to experience awe, and we get the same benefits when we choose to harness this superpower for its collective as well as its personal benefits. Awe connects us. Imagine, after just a single moment of gazing at an enormous T-Rex skeleton, participants in a modern study were far more likely to describe themselves as being part of a group and the larger social collective than those who stared at an empty hallway. 1 minute. Awe makes us compassionate. Participants in a UC Berkeley study who spent, again, 1 minute gazing up at the beautiful eucalyptus grove on campus instead of the plain science building were far more likely to help a passerby in need of help after a minor accident. 1 minute. After the event, the same participants scored lower on measures of entitlement and demonstrated a higher degree of ethical decision-making. Awe changes our perspective. And if any of you saw the sheet that I left in your seat about writing about an experience of awe, compared to a group who wrote a happy experience, people who wrote about a time they had experienced a powerful sense of awe reported much higher levels of patience and feeling much more likely to donate time or money to a good cause. So I really should have had you do that before the offertory, I think. But it's still out there. Awe reduces self-interest and increases altruism. Remember, awe doesn't just make us feel smaller. It connects us to the larger story of which we are a part. And awe gives us the desire to heal and transform the collective. Maybe curiosity and the urge to explore also gives us the means. Curiosity led our ancestors to explore, from lightning to fire to electricity, from rocks to tools, from plants to medicines, from minerals to microchips. Evolution seems impossible without curiosity. And even the technology so maligned by Dr. Schneider as our downfall has vast and transcendent benefits, which are truly awe-inspiring. Think about what you could not have imagined when you were a child, that now really is a miracle come true. In some cases, things we even take for granted, right? In addition to technology, there is awe-inspiring medical exploration, at once as ancient as our ancestors and as modern as cutting-edge neuropharmacology. I'm talking specifically about the use of hallucinogenic psychedelics, not for recreation, but to induce awe states in order to treat addiction, end-of-life distress, depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And of course, the exploration of space is something our grandparents even could not imagine, and which may lead to a miraculous, transcendent future we ourselves cannot yet imagine. When I die, Mary Oliver says, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. None of us want to end up simply having visited this world. Awe teaches us how to live a wild and precious life. It teaches us how to take the world in our arms and be married to amazement. On a personal and everyday level, awe shows us the magic of being. It enriches us by making us feel happier and more satisfied with life without having to achieve anything. Awe decreases our stress, rumination, chronic worry by turning our view away from ourselves. It makes us humble and less self-important by giving us a more accurate view, actually, of what we do and do not control, thereby relieving us of some unearned pressures and shame and guilt, perhaps, and also relieving us of some undeserved arrogance and entitlement. Awe changes our relationship to time from feeling time poor to having an expanded sense of time. And awe can be transformative and transcendent in small ways and large. An awe so quiet, I don't know when it began, describes poet Denise Levertov. Like my realization sitting alone on my sofa after a call from my friend that I am in love with this person, who is now my husband. Or The lightning bolt moment, when perception shifts in an instant and we see with startling clarity something truly important in our life, an epiphany of revelation and insight. Like the moment I saw my son for the first time and knew that nothing my ego could ever have hoped for is as important as this tiny human in my arms. Wisdom begins in wonder, said Socrates. Even negative awe involving fear or pain, illness or death, natural disasters or personal calamity can bear unexpected gifts of transcendence and transformation. Like the moment crystallized in my brain, the beautiful, sunny moment I realized something was very wrong with Mom. I will always remember the moment I found out my mother had dementia. Nothing and everything changed in an instant. And we walk now together down an unknown path, transformed. How do we find awe? We cultivate it, we practice it, we look for it. It's hard to see awe when the spotlight is on you. It's hard to see awe when your mind is distracted. It's hard to see the numinous, even in a cathedral, when your eyes are scanning the pews for trash. But with focus and practice, everyone can experience more awe in their lives. And the good news is, awe is everywhere. Marcel Proust said, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new lands, but seeing with new eyes." So here are just a few prescriptions for new eyes. Try some, try all, find what is awe-inspiring to you. The first one's basic: slow down, unplug. We all know it. Rushing, multitasking, and technology distract us from experiencing the present moment. Meditate, connect to your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? Feel, smell. Can you taste anything? Remember, even 1 minute can change your perspective. And get out in nature. Take a listening walk or an awe walk. Did you know, this is terrifying to me, in America, the average person spends more than 90% of the time indoors, disconnected from the natural world. How much time did you spend outside this week? And how much of that time outside were you conscious of the natural world around you? You can find awe in stories of courage, bravery, and compassion. Look for heroes, as Mr. Rogers said. Look for the helpers. Everyday heroes are awe-inspiring. Be awed by life's gifts, especially the ones we are prone to take for granted. If you think about it, our heart beats 100,000 times a day. We breathe in and out 22,000 times a day. We flip a switch and light comes on. The sunset turns the sky into a psychedelic light show. The sun rises every morning. Remember the chalice? Were the sun to rise but once a year, we would all cry out, "How glorious!" Seek not always to understand the science, but to be awed by the mystery. See with new eyes wherever you are. Be like the woman who retired to a Colorado apartment for the awe-inspiring mountain view out her grand window. But when forced to move into a tiny apartment with no mountain view, she amazed her friend who came to share the sorrow of her lost mountains by smiling. "Oh, but the clouds are so interesting." Look to the arts. 40 years after college, I still remember lying on the floor in a tiny dorm room, listening to Wagner arias so loud the floor vibrated, and being transported almost out of my body. Nothing but awe and emotion. And I put so much poetry in the service because poetry is another path to that quiet awe for me. But what is awful for you? Whatever it is, whenever you find it, reflect on those moments of awe. Science has shown that when we think about an experience, our brains and bodies react in almost the same way as if we are living it again. Once you have them, they are always there for you. So even if we are hardwired for negativity and self-interest, even though our days are full of awe, and let them be full of awe as well. Be present, be discerning, be small, and go boldly into your life of awe and wonder. If technology sticks with me for one more minute, I'm going to leave you with Calvin and Hobbes again. Nope, that's not it. There we go. Calvin. Oh, this is the final cartoon Bill Watterson wrote at the end of his long cartooning Calvin and Hobbes series. Calvin, wow, it really snowed last night. Isn't it wonderful? Hobbes, everything familiar has disappeared. The world looks brand new. A new year, a fresh, clean start. It's like having a big white sheet of paper to draw on. A day full of possibilities. It's a magical world, old buddy. Let's go exploring. Now, I invite you